Hello everyone, welcome to the video. I originally wanted to do this with Deep Rock Galactic gameplay in the background, because I was thinking about it. If I want more people to see my videos, they might want to see gameplay, instead of just, kind of a moving slideshow of backgrounds. And, that's the way I want to do it, but there's more interesting things I can put on screen. And for that, we are going to do Trackmania, because Deep Rock Galactic is having very bad frame stuttering right now. You'll get 77 FPS for about a split second, and then it's like there's a freeze every, 2 seconds. And it makes it so there's bursts of smooth frame rather than continuous smooth frames. It's weird. It's weird. And also very not good. Anyway, I spent a lot of time trying to set Deep Rock Galactic up, and I set it up so that I wouldn't have any sandbox mods installed. It's probably one of the mods, honestly. I'd have to run it without mods to see if, and slowly add them back on to see which one triggers it, but I'm not gonna do that right now. For now, it's just gonna be the summer campaign. Whilst I talk about today's video topic, which might be in the title by now, it might not be. I might vaguely name it "The Problem with Gaming Today." I might do that. But mainly, what I want to talk about in this video is the game modes Battle Royale and Search and Destroy in arcade shooters and the like. Now, hero shooters have their own sort of deal with their game modes, and it's interesting to see how bad game modes play out in hero shooters, because to me they didn't change much, but there's definitely something different about it. It just, the way it plays out is kind of different. So first I'm just going to take the examples of a typical arcade shooter. Let's label the biggest example you can ever put forth, and probably the one with the most data, most players, Call of Duty. Now, in my experience, Call of Duty has made a Battle Royale, and they have made a Search and Destroy. And Search and Destroy is effectively just their bomb defuse from CSGO. You get 5 rounds of it though, you get a limited amount of rounds. I think in CSGO you can go until the time limit. Maybe. I don't remember a lot since I played CSGO. I just know that playing CSGO felt better than either of the bomb defuse game modes in any arcade shooter. But essentially, bomb defuse is a game mode where you have about 5 or 6 people on each team, sometimes more depending on the game, and one team is themed off of Counter-Strike. One team is counter-terrorist and the other team is terrorist. Sometimes it's just enemy team in blue and red and blue, enemy team, ally team. One team will get the bomb for about every round until the last one. And after that, they will receive they'll receive a little bit of a break from having to plant the bomb at the second to last round. So let's say there's 6 rounds. On the 6th round, wait, no, I'm sorry. On the final round, they get the bomb on the other team instead. And then the other team has to do, they switch sides on the map too. That's another thing about bomb defuse maps. they have both teams spawn on either opposite side of the map, and usually it's themed off of attack and defense. If they make the map specifically for bomb defuse, sometimes a lot of the bad stuff that happens in video games that don't make the map for bomb defuse, they just make the map. Depending on the game mode, that map can be horrible for that game mode, or it can be insanely good. And I think what's better is making your maps around that game mode, which is something that CSGO did, it's something that Valorant did. And Valorant is one of the examples of a hero shooter doing this. Now, bomb defuse, what's the pros of this? Well, you can technically avoid the objective. If you kill everyone on the enemy team, on the opposing team, and you're still alive, or other teammates are alive, you win. And you get to have more cash in, notably, the system of which you buy weapons in most bomb defuse game modes. At least in class shooters. They'll have you buy from a bank of sorts, of guns, and you choose based on the amount of money you got, and the amount of money you got is based on how well you performed last round, and how well you've performed the whole game. Now, some games can include... Oh man, that was major frame stutters. Anyway, some games include some comeback mechanics for this. They're like, oh man, you guys had a real rough couple of rounds, you know? Like, I forget which game did this, but... Oh yeah, right. So, Overwatch 2 Stadium, not the same game mode, but they did a system with a comeback mechanic where you do buy stuff to get perks for your abilities. You get, you know, currency for your efforts in the first round, and the team that is losing, if they are losing hard enough, eventually they will get this sort of... They'll get this added benefit of a little bit extra credits than they would usually get. I think that's about every facet of bomb defuse explained. Whoa. Anyway, the main problem with bomb defuse isn't the way you can avoid the objective or the fact that you have to buy the guns. The main frustration, emotionally, not objectively with the game mode, but emotionally for the player, is usually not being able to respawn. And, you know, you might not be frustrated at it after a while, but at first, it can be extra frustrating because you have to sit there and heavily rely on your teammates. Now, most games that involve relying on your teammates have sort of suffered from general frustration from the whole player base around teammates. And it is less individualistic, so it makes it easier to blame, you know, the other players. And it sort of raises your anger. It raises your anger even more when you get to watch someone on while you're spectating, and you see that they're making obvious mistakes. And you can pride yourself saying, like, oh, I would never make those mistakes. He should have planted on A, not B. They're all at A. He's gonna die. It's just frustrating to watch. But eventually, over time, you can get used to it. You can find your own way to make fun in the game mode. And that's the problem with bomb defuse and Battle Royale. I'll get to describing and breaking down Battle Royale's pros and cons in a bit, but it is included in this section of you should be able to learn the game and play any game mode within that game after the first round and have success. We're talking like good success, not getting carried, not an easy game mode, but just being able to succeed in the game mode through intuition and what is already in the game. In X-Define, I never had to learn the game modes. I just had, like, it puts a lot of focus on the loadouts of the classes. It puts a lot more focus on that, and I think that the main way that you do that is you make the game mode less difficult to trial and error. The way people learn in video games is trial and error if you ever have respawn. And without respawn, I wouldn't say it fully takes away trial and error. It just reformats it into a more tedious form of trial and a lot easier to make errors. Your trial in a bomb defuse game mode is the one life you get that you cannot respawn on until the next round. And your trial is the round. That determines how much money you get in the system. That determines how much you can, how your chances of winning the game eventually after all the rounds are counted up. And it lasts long, too. So it takes a ton of time in the first place to get far in it. And getting far in it already has a bigger ceiling than most game modes. So, two frustrating factors, and frankly, two factors that hinder overall learning of these game modes, unless you were good from the start. And that's the thing, unless you have a lucky sort of, like, beginner's luck kind of thing with these game modes, your first impression of a game mode really shapes how you feel about it. If my first impression of a new game mode in Overwatch is like I get players on my team who cannot push the objective. Like, let's say Payload was a new game mode and I'm in Silver, and I just watch my teammates refuse to push the payload or refuse to pull back to the payload. And I'm like, what the hell, guys? This game isn't only about kills. That'll instantly ruin my impression of the game mode because of my teammates. And that is what should ruin your impression of a game mode. Okay? If you're gonna have a bad view on a game mode, that should be what determines it. Teammates, not the game mode itself. A game mode should never be bad. A game can be bad, but a game mode being bad is something that can weigh down a genuinely good game. And Bomb Defuse is one of the examples of this. Your trial can be cut extremely short, and depending on how long your trial was, depends on how much you learn. That depends on how much you get to explore the map without getting your head shot. And moving on from Bomb Defuse, that's the main problem with Bomb Defuse. The lack of trial time for how many errors you can get potentially in a single trial without learning from that trial. So you can't trial and error it like any other game mode. Let's go to Battle Royale. Battle Royale got very popularized by Fortnite, and some people hate Battle Royale because of its association with Fortnite. I actually don't hate Fortnite. If I had it installed, I would give it a try. I would go no build, because I think that's a game problem, though. Like, building in a Battle Royale is a stupid thing to me. Artificial cover, not good to have on every single player. But anyway, the way a Battle Royale is constructed is just The way I used to look at it before I actually dived into this is glorified deathmatch. If you think about it, this is accurate. Everything is just scaled up from deathmatch. You get way more players, you get a way bigger map, you get way more options for loot, but you don't get to decide what guns you do anymore. You can revive sometimes, like you can have teammates in this. It's literally just free-for-all on a bigger scale. But what messes that up is the fact that it is free-for-all on a bigger scale. In my opinion, free-for-all is a good game mode. It's a frustrating one at that, but I think it still has its place. It is meant to be a brutal game mode from the ground up. It doesn't have any elements of other game modes where you could make improvements and you could make it better. Free-for-all is strictly a frustrating experience because you are one versus the rest of the lobby, and that is everyone in that lobby. And 2v1s and 3v1s don't actually exist in there. Some people say, like, oh, I got 2v1 to the deathmatch. That's not really how it goes, because 2v1s involve that the two are on the same team. In that scenario, like in that moment where they both killed you, yes, they are technically 2v1ing you, but that's because it's 2 versus 1. It's not 2 from the enemy team, which means that right after, they're gonna kill each other anyway. I've seen it happen plenty of times, and that's why I like to call it a 1v1v1 instead of like a 2v1, because it's not accurate. A 2v1 would go around the map as a consistent 2v1. But anyway, the main problem I see with Battle Royale is how many players there are relative to the map. I think that Battle Royales can be extremely inconsistent because of the map, depending on how big it is. Something I actually really like that Pixel Gun 3D did when they added Battle Royale is they gave 2 map options, and the maps were not the same scale. I'm not talking about the 2 maps they had, I'm talking about the map options. They had a small and a big version of both their maps. And I think both of these are just scaled down versions, or they just have, like, they just kind of cropped out the rest of the map. And I always played on those, because they were more exciting to play. The reason why is with a big enough map, you are walking around endlessly. You will just be playing a walking simulator, where you loot around and stuff. It's like you found an abandoned wasteland after a nuclear explosion. But eventually, you stumble upon your first guy. What happens here? You can't respawn. You can't keep what you found if you die. So, you start using your cover. Well, if a map is this open, it might not have much cover. So, on top of that, a map this open could have someone really far away with the advantage, because they already started shooting you without you knowing. And, eventually, one of you kills the other, and it's most likely the guy who shot first. So, break it down to who shot first, the distance they have, and how good their aim is. Which, how good their aim is already determines most kills in most game modes, so that's not a bad thing to have in your game mode. Mechanical skill defines gaming. What I don't like is that they are abnormally far away compared to any other game mode. You would see them like 20 meters across the map, and in Battle Royale they can be 100. And with all the foliage that can be on a map, like I swear, sometimes in Apex Legends, I just could not see it. I don't remember if they added a sniper glare at some point, but honestly, One of the biggest examples is the game bugging out and the sniper glare continuing to be there, so you actually can't aim at their head from that distance. Very annoying. Extremely annoying. And sniper glares in general, I think, are a good tip-off, but once you see it, like, it should be a occasional glare thing. It should be more of a lighting effect. Because once you look down your scope, you should have a much smaller glare, the size of a dot in their scope, just to mark them while you're scoped in, so that way you can kill them. Because a sniper glare just lets you know, oh, they're there, in that direction, from where the glare is coming from. But anyway, that's sniper-specific example. And people can usually not have to deal with fall off too much and break shields from far away. That's another thing. Shields. In a game, I do not think it is good to have 2 layers of health in a multiplayer video game. But that is besides the point. What's worse is having it at different rarities and degrees depending on what loot you get. One of the other problems with Battle Royale is that loot is not evenly distributed, and you don't have to worry about this in any other game mode, because usually you just evenly distribute the effectiveness of the guns in your game. And then they pick as they choose. They can be, their own downfall if they don't pick a gun that favors their playstyle. And, if they lose, they lose, and that's their fault. But in a Battle Royale, genuinely, half the time, 90% of the time, actually, I will make that crazy claim. Because unless you land at the hot spots, which after the first time you might not want to because there's plenty of people there, the loot is not evenly distributed across every place in the map. And I honestly wish it was. Call of Duty Battle Royale actually does this better. But Apex Legends, when someone downs you, it is usually because they had to go through your shields and they had to go through your health. And you have to use shield cells to recharge your shields. But depending on the effectiveness of your shields, such as, like, you having mythical armor, or angelic, whatever it's called, I forget what the golden one is, but you slowly have to recharge it. You have shield batteries, which do 4 cells, and then you have shield cells, which do 1 cell. And you can optionally use shield cells to charge weapons. It's a crazy system, not consistent. Main point here is that armor is different. Not good. Not good, genuinely. You can't balance guns in a game where health is so varying. You can see which one works most of the time, but that might not be because it's an overpowered gun. It might just be because it's good at burst damage. And in any other environment in the game, it would actually win. But in a Battle Royale, it can be a surprise weapon, it can be something that just does enough burst damage to break shields all of a sudden, like a sniper rifle or the... forget what this shotgun is called, but the long one, the 4-barrel shotgun that basically just can one-tap shields a lot of the time. Not something good to have when sometimes somebody could tank a single shot and then it would be quickly followed up, or they would be... their shields would get taken out by something else. The main thing that's bad here is that you can't balance the guns around varying shield levels because some will break shields and some won't. And guns that unreliably break shields, like guns that don't do it often enough, will go unnoticed. Because then there's the other side of it. There's the people at the top who are good at the game. Now here's the thing. Battle Royales aren't impossible to get good at. You just have to be lucky. You genuinely just have to be lucky, and you also have to be a very good gamer in the first place. You have to be extremely good at game sense of, checking corners. Map awareness is a big one for Battle Royales. And also which loot works in the current meta. And Battle Royale has plenty of ways to be bad for trial and error. Depending on how long the game mode lasts, you may find good spots. You may find something where like, oh, I could sit up here, or let's say you're a lucky guy, and you just make it to the last guy. The difference between you and the guy who worked to make it to the final ring is drastic. Because he had to kill so much more than you. And you just didn't do anything. You just didn't find anyone in all the game. You could have been searching for them. You could have been using your, radar abilities or whatever. Maybe drones and stuff, but you didn't find anyone. And that's one of the problems. You can be in a walking simulator for a while in a Battle Royale if you don't get the right spot on the map. But if you're in a hot spot, you can just get easily meleeed out by someone who knows how to do the best melee. And you just so happen to be a noob who wasn't taught a jump kick because it isn't in the tutorial. Eventually you learn so much about the game that you can eventually climb to higher ranks, and you can learn more through experience. But experience quality is not the same across all boards, and all of the pros at the top. I'm not saying they didn't work for it. I'm saying that some people just do not get the chance. And I'm one of those people. If I was given the chance, if I was given more than 2 wins in the lifetime that I played Apex Legends, which was about a year, that's all I gave it, because why would I give it more? A game like Overwatch 2 kept me around for even longer. It let me learn. Because you can respawn. Because you can watch videos on YouTube and you can actually apply it in that game. And I'm sorry to use Overwatch 2 as a big example here in this video. I'm sorry if you don't like that. For me personally, it's just one of the games that I've spent a lot of time on. Probably the one I've spent the most time on in the FPS genre. And the reason I'm applying it to Apex Legends is because it's a hero shooter within the Battle Royale. Now this changes things in a way that just makes it wonkier. It just makes it harder to learn. That is most of what putting heroes in a Battle Royale does. That's about it, for the most part. Because the game mode is the main problem that makes the game bad to play. And to wrap back around, on an objective level, Bomb Defuse and Battle Royale are bad game modes for player retention and the majority of the player base being satisfied. I think that, people just aren't going to want to play a game mode that requires so many different amounts of times to try to actually see why trying is worth it. You should be able to see why trying is worth it on the first try. A try should just be worth it in the first place. It shouldn't be dependent on what happens to happen in that game. Sure, you can decide how you feel about it, but objectively there are ways that the game can make it way more frustrating for everyone involved. I'm a person who has a pretty calm mindset when it comes to video games. It was why I was able to play Overwatch 2 for as long as I did and not quit when it got tough for other people. And eventually, over time, it ate away at me. But it wasn't the game. It was the mission experience. It was the fact that I would be spending more hours out of my week than I had time to do to complete the challenges, and I would have to spend 17 games a day. I'm just not willing to do that. I have a good mental because I know where my limits are. And having a limit does not mean a bad mental. But anyway, Battle Royale, objectively, feels bad to play for the majority of the player base, because the majority will lose in order for a game to have an outcome. If no one loses in a Battle Royale game, then nobody wins. And that essentially means that you could say everybody loses in Battle Royale, except the one team or person at the top. Now, there is a difference between queuing solos and queuing teams, and between teams, it can either be easier or it can be harder if you consider that you are multiple people working together as one unit, and then there's a different variable. You have to depend on the other team not being good at coordinating, not being a good team, and then you still have 3 health bars to take out instead of 1. But in solo, it's harder because there's nobody to revive you, unless you gotta self-revive. Which honestly, self-revive should be given a lot more often. Just in general, as a loot. A lot of loot should be given more often. Ammo shouldn't be a pickup in the game. It shouldn't be a dependency. You should be able to freely shoot. Essentially, all of the things to make Battle Royale better are make it like other game modes. Because Battle Royale in the first place is an inflated version of Deathmatch. And it makes a ton of frustrations already with Deathmatch heightened. And the worst part is that in Deathmatch, you can respawn just fine. But in Battle Royale, you can't. You can't respawn, you do another round. Now, the reason that I've been thinking about this and why I take it so seriously is I genuinely think that there are some problems where if people were given enough of an objective perspective to things, if people would just look at it like, hey, we are pleasing a small handful of people and other people are suffering because of it, then that group of people shouldn't be satisfied anymore by us adding it to the game, right? In some games, no. In some games, you can have the flawed things exist with the good. But game modes are what determines everyone's experience. If they are bad, or if they are really good. And at some point, you need to consider, is having a game mode, which, by the way, Bomb Defuse and Battle Royale are the subject of this video, but my main frustration is with Battle Royale, because I had more experience with it, and Bomb Defuse I actually haven't been able to get good at, but technically, you do get more chances in Bomb Defuse. I want to address that. You do get multiple rounds of Bomb Defuse. So, out of the two, I would say Bomb Defuse is better, because it's a unique game mode. Bomb Defuse isn't formed off of anything. It just has the same problem of trial and error disparity. But in a Battle Royale, you have people who just don't get a chance to learn. because instantly you're just thrown into the flames without much of a tutorial on how, because you're not taught what maps, you know, you're not taught what areas. Areas don't have signifiers based on the loot they have there. Like Fortnite did this. They labeled the lake with the loot, Luke Lake. Loot Lake. They made it obvious to the player which one would give them the most loot. And, you know, if you think about it, most people would want to have the most loot, so it's going to be accessible over there, but you're going to have a good amount of loot and a good quality of loot. So of course you go there. But in other games, you have to figure it out. Sometimes it's based on seeing the trails at Apex Legends, seeing where everybody is going, you want to get a good start, you want to be the kill leader for your challenge, you know, whatever. But eventually, there's some people who just fall so far behind with their streak of luck that they don't want to continue. They've only been able to see one side of the coin. And overall, we're going to move this discussion out of it. Out of the game mode quality itself. Let's say, if the amount of time required in a game mode to learn it, to truly master it, is drastically higher than other game modes, should that be in the game still? Well, it depends. Is the journey towards that worthwhile? Because it's not about getting there that makes it bad. It's how you get there in Battle Royale. And how you get there in Battle Royale is having enough strokes of luck to eventually be blessed with a game mode win. And we're talking your first win. Let's be honest, nobody really earns their first Battle Royale win. Nobody. Because other people did half the killing for you. 90%, actually. Or hey, maybe you went out of the way to kill 80 in a 100 player game. Good for you, man. You still didn't do all of it. You still aren't the true winner. And Battle Royale, nobody is. But regardless, spending this much time on a game mode, is it good to spend so much time on a game where you are not having fun for 90% of the journey towards having fun? Is a game worth playing if it only gets fun in the latter halves? Or in the latter third, or in the latter 10%, or in the end game state? Is a game worth it to get through to that? Some people would say yes, because eventually you get there. I would say no. And I think what defines this perspective, at least in America, this is an arbitrary divide on who has time and who doesn't and who values it. But people who have a job, if you work at least about 20 to 30 hours a week, maybe not 40-hour work week, okay? If you're a gamer and you're playing games like that, you're probably not that old, and you're probably not getting paid that much. But regardless, you probably put in hours anyway. Just the smart thing to do. And eventually, things start to fall off based on your job. And one of those things can be video games. But for a lot of gamers, what I've seen is that games don't, like, video games as a section of their life that they spend time on doesn't disappear. But some games from it do. Specific ones. And it's usually ones that take a lot of time to keep up with. Just take a lot of attention, a lot of time to keep up with and get the rewards in that game. And eventually being a casual in those games is less rewarding. And being a casual in a game that is less rewarding to being casual is just objectively going to be less fun. There's just less to enjoy. So slowly, I mean, what happened for me is that I realized that Overwatch 2 was taking too much time, so I dropped it. Same thing with Apex Legends. I wasn't getting any results for the amount of time I was putting in. I put in about 120 hours. And some people would say 120 isn't enough, man. Put in 400, 500, see where you're at. It took me 2 years to get to 500 on Overwatch. And I played that since the release of Overwatch 2, and I only recently stopped playing. If it takes me 2 years to find out that your game is not for me, I should not have spent those 2 years. And I should be able to just say, in the beginning, without judgment, like without incorrect judgment, that I should have just spent more hours. Not a good thing to say. Inexperienced players should not be disallowed as perspective. Your first impression of a game is your most valuable impression from a developer standpoint and from a game quality standpoint on an objective level. Because some games don't have a honeymoon phase. Some games have a dark phase where you have to go through the trials of hell just to get good at it. Good for you. But we're talking about most people who aren't going to be successful in YouTube. And that's another thing. YouTube is a battle royale in itself. It's one that can make you money, and that's the only reason that it is worth it. But at the same time, it's not reliable money. Depends on your content. And some people have to be less cautious than others. Some people run it like a game. Some people do it for the love of the game. Some people do it for the love of the community. Some people do it because they didn't have a community. Or they want to make a game that isn't popular. Whatever the motive is. There are some systems to activate motives in a game that are not good and they are not healthy for most gamers. These games are the reason that games have a reputation for being a waste of time. Because you put in so much more time to get good at a game like that, and throughout the process, you weren't really getting better to an equal amount until the peak. It's a gradual uphill, until eventually you just reach the top. It's slow progress over time, instead of learning the game, and your progress being determined by your skill. It's another bad factor of it. The game determines your experience, not the other way around. And it should never be that way. You should get good at the game, not the game mode. You should determine how much fun you have in a game, not the game or the game mode determining how much fun you have on average. And to learn a game, you shouldn't have to put in an unemployed amount of time to do that. You can put in that own time on your own accord, but a game should not require that to be good at it or to win at it. And that's my problem with Battle Royale. Bomb Defuse, to be genuine with you, I made that subject in this video, knowing that I have less experience in that. I just have less experience in Bomb Defuse in general. But from what I've experienced, that's a similar case of taking way more time to be good at. And I don't think that's always a good thing. I don't think that forms a good competitive player base, you know. That doesn't form a competitive player base. That forms a player base that's willing to just put in as much time as it takes to be good at the game mode. They want to be good at the game. They're not there to compete. They're there to win. And there is a difference. Competing is about the other people. And winning is about just making sure you get there. Competition is when you have to worry about others. And winning is when others don't matter. Bit of an extremist take there. But anyway, those are my raw thoughts on it. I think I got a little emotional with it. I also kind of rambled on. And the more I do something like this without a script, eventually, it just gets more stressful, and I should make a script for videos like these. But what I'm worried about is that scripts can really lengthen a video with more words instead of more pauses. And eventually that can bore people. I don't like that this video has been 46 minutes already. But it has, so. If you liked the video, please like. You can leave your feedback in the comments. I would appreciate it. Because otherwise I don't really know what to go off of. Any feedback that I make in my own head, like, oh, I did this incorrectly, or I did that incorrectly. I don't know what I'm doing wrong until somebody tells me. You could see it through different kinds of videos over time. Like, I make a fixed TF2 won't work, and then fixed TF2 works, and it gets a shit ton of views from rage bait. But it wasn't rage bait, it was a genuine take I had, because I didn't see the passion of the TF2 community. Essentially, I'm not provoking enough people to get the attention that I want. But that's all I can view. Seriously, like, that is just stuff that I formed on my own, right in this moment. Just analyzing what I've seen in the past. But you guys can provide different perspective. I can only do so much with my own. So please, leave your comments. Leave whatever you want to in the comment. Please just be honest. Okay, like, I don't want you to disingenuously tell me what is wrong with the video, because most likely I'm not going to get anything from it. I want you to honestly tell me what you think is wrong with the video, or what's wrong with the take. I would honestly rather you not address the take though, or the opinion, because unless you want to correct me on things, not correct my opinion or anything, but correct the facts I used to make that. You know, just providing criteria here. You still have freedom of speech in the comments. I'm not going to silence you if you be goofy. So, and if you're wondering, yes, this voice is natural. If you're thinking it's forced, it's not. It's just a little all over the place. It is natural. Just depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes it can be higher. Sometimes it can be more relaxed. And right now, I am a little high stress, a little too engaged, you could say. But yeah, nothing like a 15-minute video to start off the day. I'm gonna pop this into CapCut. Probably not throw on auto captions. I hope you guys can hear me clear enough. And yeah, also just throw on some background music. Well, that's about it. Let's see. Hope you guys have a good day. Dream big, dream safe. And If it's daytime, stay yellow, my fellow. See you in the next one. Have a good day.